What's next there, young man?
Well, we've moved back to Ramona, and this was a very, very not important race, but a very memorable time. The surfers came to the track and proceeded to shake up the troops with an 803. 184.04, that Skinner and Job machine really hauls. But Crozier, Baltus, and Lovato ran 797. So you were close, but not quite.
It's a home track, man.
It's their home track. You ran there week in, week out. Round 3. So you got through round 1, round 2. You raced. Ben Griffin came out here with his little injected Chevrolet. I was just talking to him yesterday about him coming out here. They were just there for the weekend, and a little Seafield dragster, and he qualified at Long Beach, and he qualified at San Fernando and at Ramona. Round 3 had the world's quickest surfboard against the Ground Shakers. Mike Sorokin took the round as he dropped into the 7s with a run of 797, 187.89. Ground Shakers out with an 816. But I'll give this to Tom because this is a serious recollection. You can look at this and your eyewitness account.
Okay, so I guess it's the last round, is that right?
Yes.
It's the
Final
last round. And anyway, Mike gets off the track somehow, and there's just this big cloud of dirt, and I know there's a wall of rocks and terrible things.
There was a boulder orchard down there.
Yes, it was. When Drisky found that out, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. And there was a big cloud of dirt, and I thought, that is the end of our
That's
drag
it, we're
racing
done.
career.
Yeah.
We're completely done.
Right.
And in this thing, it says that Mike tore up over 1,300 feet of brush as he corrected. So I guess he didn't get that far off the track, but he was off the track and had to go through 1,300 feet of brush.
And didn't let off, and didn't. He was still racing.
Yeah, he
Which-
was.
This was before guardrails, and you saw that more than once, and it cost a few guys. Actually, cost a few guys their lives. They would run off the drag strip, stay on it, and drive back on the drag strip.
Right.
Not all of them survived that.
Oh,
And then,
boy.
Bill, you were sitting in the stands and
I was.
saw this happen.
Yeah,
right?
Mike was on the left side. I remember him being on the left side anyway. And I was in the stands on the left side of the track, and the car starts fishtailing, and then he got into the dirt in that area that everybody was not happy with.
Right.
And you could hear a collective just shudder in the crowd. And we all waited because we couldn't see anything. The dirt came up. We had no idea what was happening at that end. And the announcer finally came on and said that he was okay. And the times by the other car were pretty good, pretty impressive too. So all I know is that it was very exciting. That's all I can say.
Scary.
And scary.
As
Yeah.
I remember, it didn't hurt the car that badly. I don't remember what damage.
It says there it tore up a wheel.
Yeah.
That's all it did. So you guys had to
And the
relace
engine
the
was
wheel.
knocked loose in the chassis.
Oh yeah, the engine came loose in the chassis, but that's
Yeah.
entirely possible. I heard some welding stories on your chassis.
Yeah.
So there may have been some,
There could have been some problems.
Okay,
but
guys.
a lucky deal.
Yeah.
First foray into the weeds, and could have been the end of the surfers.
Yep.
It could have been ugly, and it turned out it was just a story. And what I find incredible is we're talking about a week, and he was there, and I was there, and you were there, and then here's another place, and you were there, and you were there.
Right.
You know,
That's so
that's
beautiful.
really neat.
That's so
because
beautiful.
not only is it a very small world, but some other visuals.
Yes.
You saw it from the left side, him on the left side.
That's right.
You saw it from the starting line because that's where you guys were. I mean, now, at that time, was he already into that, I don't want anybody around when you start? Because I've heard that story from you before where you see all these guys push up and start, and guys are wiping the tires, and guys are tuning on the motor. You guys just pushed up and then usually drove to the end to wait for him. Was he already at that point where he didn't want you futzing with the car?
Mike was a very high-strung guy. He did not want anybody. As soon as that engine started, he didn't want anybody around. And the first couple of times that Bob Skinner and I got our hearing, or your ears would ring for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
we were at the same point. We said, how about if we just don't do any of this? And if that's what it takes to win, let's figure out some other way to win. And Mike was, yes, I like that.
I'm good with it.
I'm good with that plan.
I'm good.
So
I'm
once
in
the
the-
motor started, then we
He
just,
was in the zone and leave me alone.
And you guys were pretty much just staying in the push car? What did you do?
well, the first time it happened at Long Beach, we pushed down the strip and we made that U-turn in the staging area. Well, the first time that we did this at Long Beach, we pushed down the car. It didn't have the kind of steering where it would make a U-turn. It would make a half a turn,
Mm-hmm.
back it up, and make the other half right.
Right.
And so Mike made his half a turn. And he's pointed right at the fence, waiting for somebody to back him up. And Skinner and I don't get out of the car, and everybody's looking at us and looking at the people in the everybody. Remember how the way the staging area was? And the people hanging right there on the fence, and everybody's kind of
Oh
going,
yeah.
"What's going on
What's
here?"
going on? He's sitting there running.
Getting a face full of nitro.
Yeah.
And
So who helps him ultimately?
I don't know. Some guys that were in the staging area just went and
Well,
grabbed
there
it.
Probably
was
Bill
a starter
Keys
and two staging guys.
Right.
They
Yeah.
always had a guy to stage you because they didn't have the pre-stage light. You rolled into the first light and it went out, but they were telling you where to go, so they lined you. Line up guys, and they ran over it. That one big guy with all the pit passes on his hat. He was a big, strong guy. I'm sure.
And
he
it
was
could have
part
been
of
the guys from the other car that we were racing to. I
Yeah.
mean, and there was always a bunch of people at the back of the
Somebody would help him out.
somebody. Well, anyway, but they were just waiting like it wasn't right for them to do that. They could see we weren't going to do anything.
You guys had an elbow hanging out the window, you're just watching. Probably.
Yeah, or
who
maybe
knows it.
when we put it in reverse, they figured out that
Yeah.
Yeah.
this isn't going to happen. And then once that became common knowledge, and then after that, somebody else always dealt with it. We would make a U-turn and go to the other end of the strip.
And leave and drive
Leave
to
him
wait for him at the other
This
end.
is awesome.
At
Get to watch-
Fontana, you push down. There was a little push-down road that was
Yes.
separate from the track.
Yes.
And so we just turn around right on that thing, and that became the return road beyond the pits.
Mm-hmm.
So we just head down, we'd get about the finish line, and we'd stop and we'd just look out the window and find out what happens.
Wait for the car to go by.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
So after the foray into the bushes in Ramona, tore up a wheel. You guys had to fix the wheel. You came back to Fontana, and the car didn't fire for some reason. But then you came back and made another run, but it doesn't give the any results. And that was in August of 1964.
And how much of a time span between the time that the car was hurt and they came back to race?
August 8th to August 15th the next week.
the next.
Okay.
They fixed the wheel and came back the
Alright.
next week. They're racers at this point. They're
Right.
serious now.
Right.
Right.
Everybody did. You know what's interesting about this one is Judy Thompson wrote this article.
Tell me about Judy Thompson.
That's Mickey Thompson's wife and Danny Thompson's mother. Just a sweetheart. She's still around, doing great.
Right, she lives in Colorado.
Anyway, she wrote the article.
She
so
wrote the
This
article.
would be the era when Mickey Thompson ran Fontana. He
Fontana.
was the promoter.
Okay.
Right.
He
It said
and,
Mickey Thompson's Drag City on it. That's when it was named
That's
Drag
right.
City.
Oh, good,
And
good recollection.
his partner in that promotion was Ron
Miller.
Miller, another good guy, very
Yeah.
good guy. It
A
was
little
fun.
shaky, but
Well, you know,
Did the promoter have to be?
yeah, they were the desperate promoters. He and Mickey would call. They had a reputation of being called the desperate promoters,
Desperate
and they
promoters.
played on it.
they
Interesting.
were always quite good to us.
Yeah,
We never had any issues.
So it doesn't say what happened that night at Fontana for the final, but the next day you went to San Fernando and took top fuel, but you also ran a 784. Now that
Good.
so far is been your best according to what we've run across here, and maybe into the sevens for good. To the
Okay.
library,
Right.
right?
So we wanted, everybody was starting to have wings, and oh boy, we wanted to have one and be just like all the other hot guys, right? But we had a little problem. We didn't have the money to buy one, and we didn't know how to make one out of metal. So we thought about what we would do, and that Danish modern furniture was very popular at the time, and it was, what kind of wood was that?
Walnut.
Walnut.
Walnut or Honduras mahogany.
Ooh.
This was walnut. So we
Okay.
go down and we get some walnut. And
Fortunately, they didn't borrow a table from the Red,
Yeah.
Red Apple Motel.
Right.
No,
They'd
we
heard,
went to the hardwood store.
They
they'd
actually
heard
bought
about,
one.
they heard about that.
A regular piece of wood. And then I went down to the library and I thought, well, let's see. I got some books on airfoils and went through them, and it turned out that airfoils were geared to the speed that your airplane would go, and the airfoil shapes that were on like a Piper Cub or some kind of small general aviation plane, they were optimized for like 150 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour. So I thought, that's about what we need. Because some of these things that people had were optimized for 1,000 miles an hour.
Oh yeah.
And the one we picked was called Clark Y, letter Y. And so they had the old-time books for that kind of stuff had a grid of lines, and then it would show the profile of this airfoil shape. And you would expand it by, you make your grid, you space your lines further apart, and then going through this box, it comes through the middle about here, so you put about the middle over here, and you could kind of do a fake enlarging, right? So anyway, we just scaled it up from the little one that was in the book that was this long to the one on our car that was this long. And I cut it out of paper, on my drawing paper. And then we took a gasket cinch, that gasket sticky, rubbery cement,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I glued it right on the end of the wood. And I put it in the milling machine, my dad's shop, and I milled away every place that
Didn't look like a wing.
it didn't look like a wing. And then I scraped it, sanded it, and we put that Danish finish on it.
Yeah.
And then I made the little ugly short things.
It was much more scientific than the plastic ones that Woody was having made.
Yeah,
Oh, those
they're
things were
ugly.
cheap.
They
Yeah.
were ugly. The big side piece of. But
The
now,
side piece was brilliant, actually.
then you mounted it upside down, right? For downforce or
Yeah, all of them were mounted upside down, of course.
to push.
But we didn't have the end plates. And the
Spill
end plates,
plates. Yeah.
that was a known good
Spill
thing
plates.
to have done, to do. But they were so ugly, I just said, no, we can't do that. We just can't do that.
The shape you took out of the book, what was it rated at, speed-wise?
I think about 150,
Okay, yeah, so
I'm
same.
going to guess.
Yeah.
Now the question is, does that translate to the handling of the car as far as the driver was concerned? Did they notice anything or mention it?
I think so. But the main thing was it was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was cool.
That was
right.
cool.
The other thing about the wing and the evolution of the wing and where it was what it did to you in the cockpit. Because that wing would project the air over the scoop. And if you had a bill on your helmet, it would try to take the helmet off your head. So if you knew that something was happening, but if you tipped it up or raised it up a little bit more, it would put the air over the top of your head.
Huh.
And that made a whole bunch of difference in what it was like, the driving experience. I couldn't tell you whether it changed the speed or not.